Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is something a bit different. I'm playing Kerbal Space Program for the very first time, and I recreated the whole experience as a real-time Roblox animation. Kerbal is all about building rockets, launching into space, and figuring things out as you go, which means a lot of trial, error, and emergency landings. Since it's my first time, I was definitely learning on the fly, but I had a lot of fun. And I hope you enjoy watching the journey as much as I did making it. Alright, we are getting really close to reaching orbit now. Velocity is stabilizing, the apoapsis is well above the atmosphere, and I'm starting to align for a circularization burn. I honestly didn't think I'd get this far on my first attempt, but here we are, just outside the densest part of the atmosphere. If I time this next burn right, I'll officially be in orbit. It's kind of surreal watching the planet curve below me like that. This is the part where everything could either go perfectly or fall apart. Let's see what happens. Okay, this is the moment I was waiting for. I'm almost in orbit. I can see the curve of the planet and the altitude is rising fast. I don't know if I built this thing right, but somehow, it's still flying. I was literally holding my breath hoping it wouldn't spin out or explode. This is my first try, and I'm already this close to space. That's wild. One more push and I might just make it. Okay, stage 1 is complete and everything looks good. Now I'm activating the second engine. And there it goes. Ignition confirmed. Thrust is steady, fuel flow is stable. This stage should carry us higher and faster, right where we need to be. Let's keep an eye on the trajectory and make sure we stay on course. At this point, I'm not entirely confident that this engine will generate enough thrust to carry us beyond Earth's gravity and reach a stable trajectory toward the moon. It's possible the engine lacks sufficient delta V, or I may not be aligning the craft optimally for orbital insertion. If I begin running low on fuel, especially solid fuel, or if our apoapsis doesn't clear the upper atmosphere, I'll have no choice but to initiate an emergency landing sequence. Safety and recovery will become the top priority. While the current trajectory shows some promise, I remain skeptical that this vehicle will have the capability to complete a full transfer to the moon. The engine's thrust-to-weight ratio, combined with its remaining fuel reserves, may not be sufficient to achieve a translunar injection. Even if we manage to escape low Earth orbit, there's a strong possibility that we'll fall short of the necessary velocity or alignment to intersect the moon's sphere of influence. Unless a significant correction is made, this mission might have to remain within Earth's vicinity. As anticipated, the engine's performance fell short of expectations. Its thrust output and fuel efficiency simply weren't sufficient to sustain the ascent beyond the upper atmosphere. I monitored the velocity and altitude throughout the burn, and it became increasingly clear that the vehicle lacked the delta V required to break through into orbit. This confirms my earlier concern. This engine configuration was underpowered for the mission profile. We'll need a redesign with a stronger propulsion system if we plan to reach orbital altitude, let alone attempt anything interplanetary. I'm now preparing to initiate an emergency landing sequence. However, before deploying the parachute system, it's critical to ensure we're descending over solid terrain. A water landing poses significant risks, especially with this craft's current structural configuration. I'll monitor our descent path and adjust trajectory if needed to guide us toward a stable landmass for a safer touchdown. We'll need to steer the descent toward the left side, as that region appears to be open grassland. Compared to the ocean on the right, this terrain offers a much safer landing zone. A solid surface will reduce the risk of structural damage upon impact, and it will allow for better control during parachute deployment. All right, I'm initiating preparations for an emergency landing. The trajectory is no longer viable for orbital insertion, so it's critical that we begin descent protocols promptly, but not prematurely. Deploying too early could compromise our reentry angle or waste remaining fuel needed for controlled deceleration. I'll monitor altitude and velocity closely to ensure we initiate the landing sequence at the optimal moment. Let's stay sharp and execute this carefully. All right, we're getting close. Terrain in sight, less than a kilometer to surface. Landing systems are green, adjusting thrusters for final approach. Stay sharp, this is the critical phase. Prepare for surface contact. Turning left now, scanning for a flat, stable terrain. We need a secure site with minimal gradient for a safe landing. keeping descent velocity in check while I align with a viable touchdown zone. We are now entering the upper layers of Earth's atmosphere. Altitude decreasing steadily, atmospheric drag is beginning to register. All systems holding nominal. Stand by for reentry interface and thermal load monitoring. Initiating emergency landing procedures. Systems check in progress, deploying landing gear manually. Scanning for the nearest stable surface. Prioritizing crew safety and structural integrity. Brace for non-standard descent. I might feel some shaking in the cabin shortly. That's completely normal at this stage of descent. As we begin to pass through the upper layers of the atmosphere, the external pressure and friction will start to interact with the ship's hull. This causes mild turbulence and vibration, especially in a smaller craft like this one. It's nothing to be concerned about. It simply means we're transitioning from space into denser air. All systems are reading nominal, structural integrity is holding, and our heat shield is functioning within expected thermal tolerances. I'll be monitoring everything closely, but there's no cause for alarm. Just a reminder, if the shaking intensifies momentarily, it's a standard part of reentry dynamics. Stay focused, stay calm, we're in full control. The explosion you heard a few seconds ago was completely expected. That was just the old engine assembly being released as part of the descent protocol. It may have sounded intense, but it was a controlled jettison, necessary to reduce mass and prepare for landing. I'm completely safe. I had already separated from the main structure and deployed the parachute before the engines were released. The capsule is stable, and descent velocity is within safe parameters. Now it's just a matter of riding it down. I'm keeping an eye on the terrain below, looking for a steady landing zone. Everything's going according to plan. Let's get ready for touchdown. We're now just meters above the surface. Descent rate is steady, and all landing systems are functioning within optimal parameters. Terrain contact is imminent, preparing for final touchdown. Landing gear is deployed, and the stabilizers are active, keeping attitude control aligned for a soft and secure landing. We're almost there, hold steady. Touchdown expected momentarily. We are almost touching the terrain now, descending steadily with all systems functioning nominally. The landing gear is deployed, and the surface below looks clear and ready for touchdown. We're just moments from surface contact. Altitude is minimal, descent rate is stable, and all landing systems are functioning within expected parameters. Terrain below is clear. Landing gear is deployed, and the capsule is properly aligned for touchdown. Holding steady. Touchdown confirmed. Thank you for watching, everyone.